It's going to discriminate my child. Shame on them. Yes, I see that as injustice. But the why we do what we do is to because some people don't know better. So the awareness, talking about it, explaining what it's all about, is to ensure that those people that do not understand, they understand.
Creating a sense of hopelessness for their parents who are neither overwhelmed, unaware of the child's situations, or living in denial.
I had to go to Luz. From Luz, I went to this hospital at Ibadan, the renowned this hospital at Ibadan. Then I came back here to Abuja. At some point, he was sick, so I got to meet Dr. Doris here in Abuja, a neurologist with NISA Premier. So he was sick. He had one of his sick episodes, and she now said, "Oh, that like your son has some little challenge that he might be autistic." So at that point, I said, oh, "Wow, I never thought of that." So she carried out several assessments, and they have all these ways of accessing a child. So she realized that he's autistic, but his is a mild case of autism, and and immediately commenced therapy, which has helped him so far. I would say that it has not been easy. It is not a walk in the park. It comes with its own challenges. That's just the truth. I realize that my son needs extra attention. Extra attention. He's not a child that you just want to leave unattended to because you cannot predict his next move or his next action. He's not a child that you just assume that you give strict instruction and he will have the ability to adhere or obey such instructions. So he's a child that requires a lot of attention. But as God will have it, he's gradually, he's growing daily. Therapy has helped him. He's a happy boy. He's not a grumpy, angry child. He's a very friendly. In fact, when he walks into a room now, he greets everybody. How are you? He's a very happy little boy.
The speech issue is huge because parents believe that if only my child could just say something, then there wouldn't be any need to start screaming and having behavioral issues. So you see, then another challenge we face as a caregiver is when there is no synergy between the parents and the caregivers. When the parents are not ready to work with you, they don't do assignments. They some of them are not interested in what you're doing. Or they know, oh, after all, I paid for therapy, so just give me those therapies and let my child work. Forgetting that we need to ensure that the child does most of those things at home to encourage him to remember all the things you have taught and encourage him to do what other people are doing in the house. Another one is the finances because this is one-on-one therapy, so it's expensive because the therapists need money to get themselves trained. You need to maintain the facility. Your recurrent expenditure is quite high because you have to replace virtually almost everything you have. So not having sponsorship for the facility and not having sponsorship for many children we have seen that don't have the money to even feed, to talk of paying for therapy, that has been a very, very big challenge for us.
Parenting a child with autism is a challenge yet rewarding job, where you are not just a mom or a dad, but a teacher, an advocate, therapist. All parents worry about their children, but in some cases, some parents face challenges with communication, social skill, behavior of their children on a daily basis.
We started experiencing a lot of changes as he was moving from his preteen to his teenage age. It was as if his senses were running wild. At times he would tear his clothes. He would lock himself in the toilet for hours. If you don't check on him, he'll be there. He would just lock himself in. We also noticed he was very aggressive. He was fighting everybody. He couldn't talk, couldn't express himself, which made the matter worse. Even at home, his siblings would talk to him, he would get angry, ready to beat them, ready to destroy anything. It was so bad, I needed help. That was how they started treatment. Luckily, in one of those treatments, I met a doctor there at the National Hospital, Dr. Shoyombo, who took it up personally. Because it happened that this school that my son is going to, his own children also attend the school. So it was like, what happened? I didn't see this boy. Has he been coming to this hospital? I said, yes. So from there, he took it up. They gave me medications for him. That was what doused all the hyperactiveness, So we began to follow us one on one to know the improvements made. And that was where we are today. He's not fighting anybody.
Something. And some of them might also be in denial. Say, oh, there's nothing wrong with my child. Oh, he can play so well. He answers me. I say, okay, madam, call your child. And we calling 10th time, the child is not even answering to the 10th call, ignoring everybody, aloof, not even aware of the environment. So we have seen a lot. We've seen those that will come with severe behavioral issues. In fact, once we start clinic, sometimes the clinic is supposed to be 30 minutes clinic, but they can give me 45-minute clinic because a child might throw tantrums for 45 minutes. Everybody will be exhausted, and they say just leave her and her children will be exhausted. But at the end of everything, will be very happy. Maybe the child will become compliant and agree to sit. And you see the parents wondering how are they coping? Like crying, jumping, will not even sit in one place. How are these parents coping? So you know that this child definitely do need intervention services, because if this child can behave like this, then what happens in school? And of course, sometimes the parents will say, oh, this is for the schools. Who said, oh, the school said that, oh, there's no problem, we can cope. It would be nice for schools to tell parents the truth. I'm talking to schools now. Please tell the parents the truth of how their child has been behaving in school. The behavior, the speech, the interaction.
This is against all odds.
Caring for a child with autism syndrome disorder can be very demanding, requiring a lot of energy and time. There may be days when you feel overwhelmed, stressed, or discouraged.
Very, very tasky. But I still thank God, because like some children, as you have seen, you have to toilet them, you have to clean them up, you have to brush them. My son is not like that. He has his own challenges. Like when he goes to the bathroom to have a shower, you have to stand and be begging him to come out. That's how funny it is. But it's not easy, because you'll be there for the next 30, 40 minutes begging him to come out. That is the challenge.
What I would say is I would advise parents, don't keep these children. Yes, it might not be easy, because I feel it's about the society. A lot of parents feel ashamed. I must say that. A lot of parents feel ashamed, like they feel stigmatized, or when they see that my child is not behaving or acting in a certain manner, like when my child walks into a room and he's behaving in a way that you would not expect other children to be, the parents feel ashamed. But I would say that for the sake of these children, please, parents, try as much as possible to get help, because early detection is better. It helps them. By the time they start early, some of them, after some time, they grow out of it.
Yes. Yeah, we have autism myths. Number one, they think that children with autism, they don't love people. They don't want to be loved. That's not true. They want to be, and if you show them affection, they know those that genuinely like them. So when you're passing, they will grab you. They understand those things. Because our children appear indifferent and aloof, so you think that they don't care what happens in the environment. They do. Then they also think that autism is as a result of spiritual influence, the witches and the wizards. No, 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 no. In fact, some people have told me, doctor, don't you think this child needs exorcism? So we need to pray and fast. I said it's okay to pray and fast, just like you're doing for every other thing, but this child needs therapy and it's autism.
Parenting is not ever easy, and raising a child with special needs is even more challenging. For you to be the best parent you can be, it is important that you take care of yourself.
It might be a bit emotional. Every time they come, yeah, we always have this burst of emotions and this not pity, but you just feel emotional. So that's how I feel right now. But before that, everything has been going well. We do our best. Of course, you know about Kanye already. So what we experience with him is also what all parents who have special needs children go through. There's really no difference. You are saddled with a child. You probably have to look after for the rest of the child's life. So unless there's a miracle, and we also do believe in miracles as well. But unless there's a miracle, that is what you're saddled with, and it's a daily routine of trying to discover new ways to um, either pacify the child or to spur the child to do something, because of course it's a neurological disorder. So they're thinking properly. They know what they're seeing around them, but how to communicate their inner feelings is the problem. And you know how it is if you're a man now and you can't talk, but you want to say something to somebody, but you can't talk. You'll be agitated. But that's how they are.
You were not hidden when you were born. Maybe you didn't have autism, but God has given you this child and it's for a purpose. It might not be easy, but why don't you start from somewhere? Don't let anybody's comments, or you feel that you're being discriminated against, don't let anything like that deter what you do for your child. Show love and do whatever you can as a parent. Anything you can afford, go to the extent you can afford. The ones you can do at home, there's always something you can do at home. In fact, you can do 20% of some work at home to help your child. Okay, so don't hide away your child. Please say no to discrimination. We need inclusion in the house, at school, in the church, and amongst society as a whole.
Autism syndrome disorder is not gender-based, it's non-racial, and it cuts across all social economic groups all over the world. Therefore, we will keep educating the society and advocating for equal opportunity to participate in every aspect of life to the best of their abilities and desires.
Information is power. Everyone wants power. So feel powerful with the NTA News mobile app, the one-stop information center. Real news at your fingertip. Be the first to report by uploading first-hand information on the You Report link, and be the first to know by simply clicking on any of the links on the sidebar for headlines, domestic and foreign news, economy, security, politics, sports, and more. Stream live on your smartphone and tablets and stay connected. It's pretty easy. Simply download NTA News app from your Google Play Store and you're good to go. NTA News mobile app, your access to real-time information.
Nigeria is Africa's most populous nation, with cultural and media influence throughout the entire continent. But it's facing a conservation crisis. Its wildlife and national parks are highly endangered by poaching and illegal logging. It's the epicenter of the illegal trade in ivory and pangolin scales, with tons of products representing thousands of animals seized in recent times by customs. It has strong demand for illegal bushmeat that endangers animals and risks introduction of zoonotic disease. But Nigeria could be a conservation leader. With Lagos leading the way, Nigeria is updating its wildlife legislation. It's improving its wildlife law enforcement, and it's revolutionizing its public awareness. WildAid and its Nigerian partners are launching the largest ever conservation awareness program in Africa, to drastically increase coverage of wildlife issues. Working with government agencies, working with the media, working with prominent Nigerian ambassadors,
report suspicious activity and wildlife crime,
to promote Nigeria's national parks, to promote wildlife law enforcement, to raise awareness of the dangers of illegal bushmeat, and to promote alternatives. Nigeria can go from crisis to becoming a leader in conservation.
So let's do the right thing.
Tell your families and friends to say no to illegal bushmeat.
keep them wild,
Keep them wild.
keep them wild, keep us safe.
and keep us safe.
Did you get to see the way Telling about the post this? Don't forget to send in your messages.
There's a difference between picking, child, and issue.
It's actually cool. The idea come in the that is the and do more with less people.
If we have a better way of addressing these issues, taking care of.
Congratulations, you were able to sign Timo Werner from RB Leipzig.
You take water before your workout.
People have used that for using TikTok to do that.
You can go protest that.
A lot of people don't even have resources.
I'm Cecil, and this is the Medley Show on NTA.
NTA, you can't beat them.
Ahead of 2023 elections, President Buhari directs armed forces to remain apolitical.
By providing a peaceful environment to enable the successful conduct of the 2023 general elections.
Towards greater cooperation, Nigeria and Vietnam signed Memorandum of Understanding on Defense. Senate to pass 2023 budget next week as Finance Minister clarified issues on appropriation bill. Good morning, Nigeria today focuses on Nigeria policing the environment. Okay, so we are told that for the first time since its establishment, the National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency, NESRA, will recognize some industries that have complied with environmental standards in their various operations. Now, the event is scheduled to hold later tonight, and it will be at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. And it is intended, among other goals, to encourage other companies and industries to maintain their environmental standards in their activities in order to avoid pollution. Okay, so about 20 deserving facilities in different sectors are to receive the Maiden Award of Environmental Compliance across the country. Now, recently, NESRA sealed nearly 40 facilities
for violating environmental laws in the country. And of course, it did that in accordance with his mandate. And that brings to nearly 270 facilities that have been shut by the agency over the past decade.
I'm sorry about this. The weather is not friendly this morning.
Yeah,
now, the facilities in question, according to the agency, were given notices of compliance consents, but however refused to halt the violations against the environment.
Well, the step taken by Nigeria has been described as the stick and carrot in dealing with human behavior. But the question is, why should industries or companies be policed before complying with extant laws regulating their activities? How many violators have been punished, and to what extent will the award ceremonies later this evening encourage others to comply with environmental regulations without the threat or fear of sanctions? These are some of the questions we intend to seek answers to as we discuss Nigeria policing the environment on to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria. Welcome to the program. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And indeed, we may need to also really applaud those companies that will be receiving the award, because it's not easy to comply with rules and regulations, of course, just to protect our environment and also to protect humans. And there are quite a number of other multilateral companies, that are also maybe violating our regulations. So, Kingsley, I think we need to really applaud those companies.
Well, that's citizens or corporate responsibility demands in the first instance that they be law-abiding citizens. A corporation is a citizen in the sense of it, that is a legal citizen. And so if they have complied with the rules and regulations relating to their operations in terms of making the environment a much safer place, kudos to them. But of course, it requires that they continue to do so. Protecting the environment is not just for the benefit of the companies, but for overall health of everyone. But the number looks paltry. When we get to the conversation segment, we shall see why that is so. How many companies or facilities are operating? A good number of them discharge their influence into the environment. Underground waters are polluted, surface waters are also polluted, and all kinds of things. And they just take advantage of sometimes the lax enforcement of environmental standards and regulations in our country.
All right, and I think that's the reason why we're having this conversation this morning, so we get to see why those companies should be or are being recognized for, and it's reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. And as usual, we will have our complimentary segments, and they will come in the course of our program. It will include the news that will be coming up presently with Tessie Omeri, and then we will look at business news later on, and much later, Chukwudi Okoli Ugbaja, I call him Chooks the Boy, will be here to do the newspaper review for us. For now, let's head to the newsroom where Tessie Omeri is. Good morning, Tessie.
Good morning, Claire. Good morning, Kingsley. And sorry about your cold. I think a cup of tea with lemon and, ginger will just do justice to that. What do you think?
What do you think, Kingsley?
That's right. That's it's a good prescription. She's not a physician, though, but
to clear the voice.
The environment is dusty, it's hazy. It's also chilly. We're around about 19 degrees centigrade this morning as the external temperature. So that's great, Tessie. Let's have the highlights of the morning news.
Yeah. Good morning, Nigerians. President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the nation's armed forces to remain apolitical and continue to operate within the framework of the Constitution towards ensuring the successful conduct of the forthcoming general elections. Declaring open the 2022 Chief of Army Staff's annual conference in Sokoto, President Buhari said the army, as a key element of Nigeria's national power and catalyst for development, must also provide the needed aid to civil authority.
It is also imperative for me to state that the Army and the armed forces in general remain apolitical, as will be required to support the civil authority by providing a peaceful environment to enable the successful conduct of the 2023 general elections.
President Muhammadu Buhari has reiterated his commitment to handing over the leadership of the country to an elected president, saying the May 29th handover date remains sacrosanct. He stated this while receiving a special envoy of King Mohammed VI of Morocco. Nigeria and the Socialist Republic of Vietnam have signed a memorandum of understanding on defense. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the signing in Hanoi, Vietnam, said the collaboration will be the beginning of greater cooperation, not just in the area of defense, but other areas of mutual interest.
We hope that that collaboration, which will bring about technical assistance and cooperation between the Socialist Republic of Vietnam and Nigeria.
Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed has informed the Senate that preparation of the 2023 budget followed due process and involved ministries, departments and agencies of government before presentation to the National Assembly. The minister said this at a meeting with the Senate Committee on Appropriations, which demanded clarification on some confusing items in the budget.
The 2023 budget proposal that has been prepared by the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning was prepared within a process of strict sincerity and also with a high sense of responsibility in line with the established regulations and procedures.
Senate is expected to pass the 2023 budget next week. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed says the presidential candidate of the opposition People's Democratic Party PDP, Atiku Abubakar, has no moral justification to criticize the APC administration led by President Muhammadu Buhari.
I guess we can excuse His Excellency the former Vice President, who until recently had fully relocated to Dubai, thus losing touch with Nigeria. This is because for the 16 years of the PDP rule, 8 of which Alhaji Atiku Abubakar was Vice President, there was no motorable road to the former VPC hometown, and indeed to key local governments in the southern senatorial zone.
President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the renovation of state offices of the National Population Commission with functional data processing centers and mandated the commission to deliver a credible census in 2023. NPC Chairman Nasser Issa Kwara confirmed this at separate meetings with Kano State Governor Umar Ganduji and the Emir of Kano Alhaji Aminu Ado Bayero.
This data is being coordinated for planning purposes. And in Kano, I'm telling you that we'll give you all the kind of support needed.
And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Claire and Kingsley after this break. Do stay with us.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
Finally, the hero of Nigeria's democracy has arrived. He shall usher us into a new phase of development, peace, and prosperity. He is the father of the new Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Welcome to another season of giving Nigerians hope yet again. We are sure of a great future for both ourselves and generations yet unborn. We look forward to your leading us as a nation into our manifest destiny. Though the challenges against us as a people are many, we know that your leadership shall set us on the right path to our greatness. A new dawn beckons on us all, and having you as our president is a precursor to this. Thank you for believing in Nigeria. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Today, we're here to tell you that while we may not be there yet, our military and other security agencies have succeeded and are succeeding in substantially restoring security across the nation. As far as the daunting security challenges we face are concerned, we can tell you that the worst is over, and never again will terrorists and bandits and their cohorts hold sway in our country.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Oh boy, this one where your eye red. You carry machete, you still carry gun. Wetin you want take and do, sef?
After the para like this, I don't vex.
Oh boy, calm down down now.
Like this, like this, I dey go scatter those businesses. You know, say they scatter our people businesses, eh? You don't see see, and they go there, they go, as I go like, and they go show them better craze. They never see anything.
If you destroy their own for here, and they destroy your people own for that side, especially that your brother where they send you money, that way don't block, oh. How you go take survive?
This way talk not true, but I see the vex.
Boy, calm down. Make we embrace peace. We peace and unity. Everybody go
My people, make we gum body with the peace and unity. Make we learn to live as brothers and sisters so that we country go fit move go permanent sides. This message now from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, well, welcome once again. If you've just joined us, it's Good Morning Nigeria on the network service, and time to catch up with some trending business news. And in our package today, Aliko Kwanache tells us that the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, is providing loan facility for farmers. That's for the year 2022-2023 dry season farming. Let's get all the details now.
Director, Development Finance, Yusuf Yila, says the Apex Bank, under its Anchors Borrowers Program, will focus on only 3 crops: rice, maize, and wheat.
The dry season program will have initial strategies to do 700,000 hectares, of which wheat is 250,000, rice is 400,000, and maize is 50,000. Maize typically we do in the wet season, and we have enough strategic reserve to be able to, stabilize prices next year and even 2024.
Let's take a look at Monday tradings on the floor of the exchange. With business news, Alika Opanachi, Arua.
Many thanks, Alika Panachi Arwa, for the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Coming up next is Newspaper Review.
All right, it's time to do your thing, Chukwudokoli Baja. It's time to do. You remember, do your thing.
Oh yes, do your thing. And I'm not going to say hello, croaking Claire. I am happy to be here. No thanks to the dust.
Don't worry.
It's okay.
I'm sure you are the one that was trying to.
One doctor said if you treat a cold, it lasts 7 days. If you don't treat it, it lasts 1 week.
So whether treated or untreated, it's there for 7 days.
It's still there. Let me say that
it's not a cold she has. I believe it's a cold. I think it's just some allergic reaction to the
Dr. Kingsley
environment. Yes. Well, in a sense, we all first you have to be a physician to be able to make the appropriate prescriptions. But each and every human being is a personal physician. You have to start with yourself.
That's the basis of health tips.
Precisely.
I agree.
By the time
Totally.
by the time it gets beyond your control, then you now seek help from those who have been through the course of instruction and have been certified to take care of other human beings.
Let me take just 2 items. I like the powers that come from your side, so I'll just minimize my time.
Hold on, just hold it.
We haven't taken the headlines. You're overrunning. Very quickly.
I hope you don't lose fuel.
Claire, I think you can take some of the headlines.
Okay, let me quickly run through New Telegraph. New Telegraph is quite busy this morning. We need peace. That's Wike to Atiku. That's the headline. We need peace. G5 won't condone more attacks from Presidential Council. And it comes with some riders there. Wants party to be together for electoral victory, says Dogara lacks character. And former speaker fires back, says Rivers governor shallow-minded and dealing with amnesia. Well, those are the words of this paper. And we'll see just on the right column, that should be to your left, strikes, FG to amend law on varsity autonomy. Federal government to amend law on varsity autonomy. Details of that on page 4 and 26. NECO declares war on exam malpractice. Hopefully, let's hope we will win this war. 2023 remain neutral, Buhari tells armed forces. Commends their role in tackling insecurity. And of course, insecurity in Nigeria, 8 others made in Burkina Faso. Also trending there. 2023 federal government, not Tinubu, APC developed Lagos, Atiku. Promises to restructure Nigeria, reform economy. And Chatham House, Tinubu promises quality leadership, tackle insecurity, insists best academic work records, consistent details of that on page 4. Now, story trending on the foot of the paper. Reps probe 4 trillion naira electricity bill owed Nigeria by Benin Republic, Niger, Togo. Again, Reps probe 4 trillion naira electricity bill owed Nigeria by Benin Republic, Niger, Togo to revisit utilization of federal government's 1.3 trillion naira loan to NBET. NBET, of course. Let's also go to a little above the nameplate. Okay, the nameplate now. I think budget padding. Senate clears finance minister of complicity. Details of that on page 4. U.S.-Nigeria Open Skies Pact allows U.S. carriers to charge fares in dollars. All right, and these are some of the stories. Let me quickly, Kingsley, so you just take. Leadership is busy, but it leads with December 31 deadline. Security forces have 25 days to rout bandits and terrorists. Military yet to arrest 19 wanted terrorists. We have killed 2 in airstrikes. DHQ. Nav jets kill 7 Zamfara bandits in Kaduna villages. Okay, on the other side, on the left side, Abuja Kaduna train resumes amid low passenger traffic. I think that was expected. Federal government lists achievements. says PMB fixed road to Atiku's village. Okay, these are some of the stories from the leadership. Kingsley.
Okay, we also take a look at the window page of the Punch newspaper. Some of the headlines will be taken from there. Claire already read some of the headlines, but an earpiece beside the nameplate says federal government not ready to fund universities. That's according to ASU. We have details on page 28. And this story says Naira depreciation adds 9 trillion Naira to foreign debt burden. And you see the photographs there on the front page of the Punch newspaper showing the resumption of train services on the Kaduna Abuja corridor. Nigeria projects 1.8 million barrels production May 2023. Nigerians with NIN rise to 92 million. Oil theft. Navy denies blaming NNPCL. All right, Chukwudi.
Yes, I'll quickly take just two of some of the things we have, hammered out there. We need peace. G5 won't condone more attacks from Presidential Council. They want the party to be together for electoral victory.
Which party is this?
You see,
which party is this?
That's I don't understand the question.
No, it's which party?
PDP, of course. G5.
Well, you have all kinds of G's all over the world.
Oh, yes. It's let's not call it the wicked group, okay? So that we don't get a little mischievous, okay? Somebody is saying Dogara lacks character somewhere. Former speaker is firing back, saying that Rivers governor is shallow-minded, dealing with amnesia. I'm thinking that the people are lucky that Patrick Obayagbo has not joined the fray. Otherwise, he's likely to have told them that this is a cataclysmic distraction of a prostate and disenchanted polity, and the fight will, go a little level higher. But while all this is happening, the question we ask is, how much is it manifesto friendly? How much is it all happening to help us understand what the people who want to lead us at the highest point are ready, to lead us effectively? Quickly, I take strikes. FG to amend law on university autonomy. This is aimed at addressing funding, including staff remuneration, institutional governance and administration. Internal revenue is also being focused. If this does happen, some people are likely to begin to think, oh, this amendment is likely to, inhibit the ability of the dons to express themselves anytime there's a grievance and all that. But from what has been explained at this ceremony attended by Boss Mustafa on behalf of the Vice President, it is to help the universities run a bit better. Before I go to you, there's this, an editor doesn't quite tell an editor what to do. But sometimes there are some expressions you see and you get worried. Tinubu takes campaign to UK. Atiku train storms Lagos. It is time for us to let people know properly that it is campaign trail, the path of people campaigning, campaign trail. So it's the Atiku trail that is coming. It's not Atiku train. Editors have to be careful. Somewhere they wrote something about IPOP saying they have no hands. I think it's we have no hand in it. These are becoming a bit worrisome. And I think we should occasionally squeeze them in.
Yes. I think so too. And I know that Kingsley, has always, pointed that out as well. He's given his, experience.
Oh, sure.
Yes, it's always done that.
Yes.
So I think
the other time he addressed under the radar. Remember Kingsley? It's very important to point these things out.
Honestly.
Okay. I know you want to.
There are two stories really. I would like us to look at. Reps probe 4 trillion electricity bill owed Nigeria by Benin Republic, Niger, and Togo. And the inside page, Reps, that's the Public Accounts Committee of the House of Reps, is summoning the Managing Director of Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trading, PLC, over 4.014 trillion naira debt. And it says that it does not want any representation, it does not allow representation, that it directs the NBET Managing Director to appear in person alongside the MD CEO. That's from Thursday, December 8th, to justify the reasons for non-rendition of the audited accounts.
Oh, yeah. Well, the good thing is that...
we are looking for money,
yes.
and we have money outside somewhere.
Oh, yeah, well, you see, that electricity thing, the Niger angle and all that, you know, some people will quickly tell you, do not be too quick to criticize the Niger, all that. If the river Niger is dammed up there, we're not going to have enough volume of water. So some political considerations come into some of these things. But please, if there's some exchange that should attract pecuniary benefit to me, I think that you should.
No, but this is money owed.
Yes.
There's no political undertone.
Yeah.
It's money owed. It's an established money owed to the Nigeria.
That's what I was getting to at the tail end of
so
my...
I don't think there's any political undertone.
No, well, I mean, it's a usual transaction. Yes. We have these agreements with our neighboring countries to supply them electricity, and sometimes it turns out that they have more stable power supply than we do, and on account, of course, of the stability also of their grid. And so there are all considerations that are involved, use of water, and the fact that also we are neighbors, but it is not for free. So if sums are being owed, then they should to collect it. Very quickly, before we get into perhaps what is a naughty one, is the resumption of the train service on the Abuja-Kaduna corridor. Yesterday, we had our correspondent, Haruna Mohammed, joining us from Rigasa, which is the terminus in Kaduna. We all recall what happened, unfortunately, on the 9th of March 28th this year, when terrorists attacked the train that was heading from Abuja to Kaduna. 8 persons died in that tragic incident, and scores were kidnapped. And a good number also survived to tell the story. Amongst those who were on that train service and who survived was NTA's Deputy Director of News, that's Muhammad Ali. He was our guest in the studios, just narrating to us what transpired that night and the horror that they went through, and of course along with members of their family. And a month after that incident, Good Morning Nigeria again also focused on that subject matter, taking in other guests, including the managing director of Nigerian Railway Corporation, Engineer Fidel Ohiria. So the resumption of train services is happy news for all. Yes, of course, one would expect that passenger turnout will grow over time, but the issues around security, see something, say something, hear something, say something, those issues are very important. The railway service, let's be realistic, is not a security agency. It can only co-opt the services of security agencies for its operation. But citizens, those who patronize the service, should at all material times, as well as communities that the train route passes.
Keep their eyes and ears open.
Precisely, because part of the question that arose at that time was it possible, for instance, for these terrorists to have been moving around the way they did and with their logistics, and nobody noticed or observed something. That was what went on. We hope it doesn't happen again. But again, we should also recall what happened that night and give kudos to the Nigerian military, because as distress calls were coming out from the passengers who were under the assault,
the quick response,
they responded within an hour, 35, 40 minutes or thereabout, according to Muhammad Ali. The military then came, destroyed the terrorists, and then started evacuating those who were injured, taking them on their backs. This military personnel, and then, of course, ferrying them to the 44 Reference Hospital in Kaduna. So it was a big tragedy for us, but happily, the services are back.
I am happy. I heard when they said,
yes, please go ahead.
I was happy when I heard that the unmanned aerial, vehicle, popularly called a drone, it will now become part of.
Well, those are security issues. Those are security issues.
The point I'm making is that we're stepping up security. It's going to cost money.
Yes, but I didn't even think that should be made public.
No. Those are Well, let's not get into. They have stepped up security arrangements for that corridor and elsewhere. But citizen responsibility is critical.
Yeah.
So but again, Kingsley, yes. I wanted to. I don't know if you can make some clarification. The minister said one of the requirements for passengers to board the train
Yes.
is to show your name. And if you are going along with, minors, you are also expected to either, stand in for them, for those minors, show some form of responsibility. So I don't understand the immediate relevance of the security relevance of, the presentation of your name to board the vehicle. To board the train.
What danger does it pose?
Yes.
When you do not show your when you show your name, what danger does it pose? That's a question I ask you.
Well, I think
that's the point.
What was said was that you have to have a valid means of identification. Plus your name. You can have a valid means of identification that doesn't disclose fuller details as your name would, for instance.
Okay, the name.
Yes, that is a
name.
national identification number.
Not name.
Your name, national identification number, will have fuller details, so that when you are boarding the train, look, it's not a new thing. When you are boarding Amtrak, for instance, in the United States on a journey, you are required to have a valid ID. If you are not an American citizen, you bring your passport, your international passport, and they swipe it. Your details will be there, so that in any eventuality, it is possible to trace. And it is also said that an adult can only provide cover through his or her valid means of identification for minors only.
What about those who are yet to get their name?
Well, if you have a valid means, then of course use other means of transportation.
You must have another means of identification.
Because there's a headline
Very
here.
Important.
Clear. There's a headline here that says Nigerians with NIN rise to 92 million. So nobody compels you to go by train.
That's it.
So go use another means of transportation.
We have our requirements.
We have seen what happened. I mean, the tragedy that occurred on the 20th.
I don't think we should take this line. I think we should make provisions also, for those who are yet to get their names for no fault of theirs. If they want to go by train, which is probably the safest and cost-effective means now.
I'm not going to support your preachment of tardiness. By now, people should have got their national identification number.
If you were writing your UTME,
yes,
you were required to have your
I'm
name.
looking for my yellow card.
If you were also going to register to vote, you would have had your name. So let's if you know that you will be using that train facility, go get your name. It's not a big deal anymore.
That's the point.
It's not a big deal.
That's it.
The other one. I know that.
We are asked to...
No, I understand, but this is critical because there are two headlines here. One says federal government to amend law on varsity autonomy. Federal government not ready to fund varsities according to ASU. ASU held their National Executive Council meeting in Calabar, and they issued a statement at the end of the meeting saying federal government is not ready to fund varsities and that the recourse to the proposed loans for students would not work because it had collapsed in the past. No further proposals from ASU as to how to fund universities. And that had always been a critical issue in the various strikes that they have embarked upon. Now the federal government is coming to say we're going to have to amend the Universities Act in order to expand the terrain of autonomy. Over time, when we have had conversations around ASU and what we need to do, suggestions have been made. And I recall Professor Ochefu, one of the issues he raised in our conversation on Good Morning Nigeria had to do with how the current autonomy that universities have, that autonomy is not full autonomy. Because universities, let's say federal universities, are still required to have recourse to the president. For instance, to enable them to make investments. Certain kinds of investments and the whole issues around autonomy. Look, if your governing council is your employer, why is it that when you have disagreements, you are busy chasing the federal government, you are chasing the Minister of Education, you are chasing the Minister of Labor, and so on and so forth? I think that this would be
some gray areas need to be ironed out.
But I did say, hang on a second, Claire. We need to remind our viewers that yes, there are different statutes establishing each of the universities, federal universities, for instance, that it may not require you to amend each and every one of them. You can pass an omnibus piece of legislation that amends all the existing laws related to federal universities, and those universities are named, and the extent of the amendment will also be stated. I think we should be getting closer to this issue instead of saying, no student loan, federal government must fund. Where is the federal government going to get the money from?
All right.
Clear.
You need a cup of water?
I don't need.
You were
All
looking
right.
for your yellow card.
I didn't,
Now you're giving him a red card.
I didn't
So we leave this place.
I didn't know how to talk briefly. When he gets passionate about
It is the
and I
passion
agree
of
with
the
you,
journalist.
I really agree with you. But Chukwudi, I won't give you enough time.
No. I don't want any.
Chooks the boy.
How are you doing?
We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Every day in our country, senior citizens are discriminated against, disparaged, and treated with disdain by those who ought to respect them. We are all complicit in the way we have treated the elderly members of our society as institutions, families, or members of a shared society. Every time senior citizens get offered less than they deserve for the work they do because they are old, poor, and desperate, we are failing them. Senior citizen loses a child, and wow, they must be responsible for their death. Every time a senior citizen gets labeled a witch, is called mad, and shooed out of the way because they have no memory of where they were headed and look unkempt, we are failing them. We say, abeg, it all old, make it do die, make everybody for rest. To ailing parents, uncles and aunts. That's discrimination. That is neglect. When you see an old woman getting beat up and being accused of witchcraft, do not turn the other way. Stop and teach people that white hairs, wrinkles, and hunchbacks are no evidence of witchcraft. Aging comes with a memory decline. Sometimes it's not out of place to have elderly people lose their way, forget details of their lives, and how to properly take care of themselves. When they get to this stage, they deserve your empathy, not scorn. Our ailing fathers, mothers, aunties, and uncles are deserving of quality healthcare and peaceful transition. Make their last moments memorable. Senior citizens have paid their dues. They deserve your care. Stop all forms of discrimination against them today.
Critical military objectives of total defeats of the terrorists in the Northeast is already been achieved. Synchronized group and air operations have continued to inflict huge casualties on the terrorists, and they have been forcing many of them, including their commanders and emirs, to surrender in droves with members of their families. Whilst areas where terrorists hitherto had some freedom of actions are being cleared, and socio-economic life is gradually returning to the most parts of the Northeast. As while internal displaced persons are now returning to their ancestral homes to start life all over in dignity, under a safe and more secure environment.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during, and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you? All Sundays and all Fridays, you are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
Nigeria, get ready. Industries, get ready. The die is cast and all is set for the first ever National Environmental Compliance Awards, NECA. Deserving facilities in different sectors will receive the award for their compliance with environmental regulations. These awards will be presented by the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Date 6 December 2022. Venue, the Conference Center of the Presidential Villa. This event is powered by the National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency, NESRA, a parastatal of the Federal Ministry of Environment. Hashtag NESRA Award 2022. NESRA, ensuring a cleaner and healthier environment for all Nigerians.
All right, welcome back to the program. It's Good Morning Nigeria, and it's happening live here in our studio in Abuja. So our conversation today will be on NESRA. We're looking at how it has been implementing or carrying out its mandate of policing the environment, and specifically the agency is about to recognize agencies it feels or it deems have complied with some of the rules and regulations on the environment and humans. But before we start our conversation, let's listen to this background report, and it's put together by our correspondent, Uyemi Ajayi.
The National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency, NESRA, was established in 2007 to ensure a cleaner and healthier environment for Nigerians. The agency is saddled with the responsibility of process and equipment monitoring, compliance with set standards, discipline of violators of set rules, conducting public investigations, and submission of proposals to the minister to review in order to maintain environmental quality. Over the years, the agency has been up to its responsibilities of ensuring environmental safety. However, there are complaints of recent about the activities of artisanal miners in some states. In a bid to protect the environment, NESRA has embarked on an enforcement drive which led to the sealing of 39 facilities across the country for failing to comply with extant environmental laws. NESRA has recorded several achievements in the area of environmental compliance, monitoring and enforcement since its establishment, including the enactment of several regulations pertaining to environmental protection, monitoring environmental compliance, and enforcement actions. Reports indicate that the agency has conducted environmental compliance monitoring to more than 8,122 corporate facilities in the past 11 years, and it has sealed 269 facilities for various environmental infractions. As a way of recognizing compliance of some agencies, it is set to hold the National Environmental Compliance Awards, NECA, to deserving facilities in different sectors which have complied with the regulations, standards and guidelines set out in the NESRA Act. 17 facilities have been listed for this maiden award on environmental friendly practices, which would be presented by President Muhammadu Buhari to the industries on food, pharmaceuticals, tobacco, and beverages for their compliance to safer practices on the environment as an incentive to fight climate change occasioned by friendly environmental practices. Will this be a step towards motivating compliance for friendly environment? Guests already seated in the studio will be answering these and more questions shortly.
Indeed, Oyeyemi Ajayi, thank you. There are many more questions to ask and, of course, to get answers to. And we have our guests, yes, seated right here in the studio. I'll begin the introductions. Professor Aliu Jauro is the Director General of NESRA, and he joins us live in the studio. Good morning, Didi. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Nigerians.
We also have with us, let's say, Salka. He's the Director of Partnership and Education, NESRA. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
You're welcome. Good morning.
All right.
And then also part of this morning's conversation is an environmental consultant, Chika Emeribe. We're glad to have you this morning.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay. Let's begin with the DG of NESRA, Professor Aliu Jauro. Well, there's an award ceremony later this evening for firms that are in compliance with environmental standards in their operations. But some Nigerians probably would ask the provocative question, why would it be that it is when you are about to bestow honors and awards on environmentally compliant companies that your agency will be heard about or heard of? what else is happening in terms of policing our environment?
Thank you very much. I think we have been doing a lot, and so far we have undertaken over 11,500 compliance monitoring in the just last 4 years. Likewise, those that have not been complying, we have sealed a lot. In 2021, we have sealed 87 facilities that refuse to comply. And likewise, this year, 2022, we have sealed 73 facilities. So we have been doing a lot, and we have been reaching to the public. We have undertaken a lot of environmental education and awareness campaign. We used to have weekly NTA program that is aired by the network service, and we call it Nesria Watch, just to sensitize the public for them to know what is required of them. So I think they have heard a lot about Nesria. So now what we are doing is just to comply with one of the provisions of our regulations. We have 34 regulations cutting across the sectors of the economy. So in some of the regulations, we have provision for awarding those that have decided to comply. So that's why we pick these facilities, and it's a thorough process across the country, and we are going to award them with this compliance award as a form of motivation for them to continue complying and for also others to key in.
Okay, I'll just put you on hold, DG. I'd like to bring in Mr. Emeribe Chika, who is an environmental consultant, and I'd like to start with you. I'd like for you to tell us, you've listened to what he said. They've made, according to the DG, they've made inroads into securing compliance, with regards to keeping our environment healthy, keeping, our surroundings healthy. How do you evaluate the Nigerian environment today? Do you think it's healthy enough?
Well, it's I would say it's about 50% healthy. It's not too healthy, especially in the big cities like Lagos. But Abuja is pretty okay. But the rest of the country, if you go to the industrialized areas like Aba, Port Harcourt, they are pretty okay, but Nigeria is really doing a lot.
Sorry, that's before. Yeah. I just, when you say pretty okay, please just give us a sense of what you mean by okay.
Okay.
What context?
I won't say that they are perfect, but the environmental awareness is just beginning to bear on Nigerians. So it's not really, it's just, I wouldn't say it's so fantastic. They are fantastically compliant. But with the giant strides being engaged by Nigeria, under Professor Jawuro, most of the companies that have been polluting the environment and even the populace are beginning to be aware. It's just it's a new awareness that is happening in the environmental sector.
So you see, Chika, thanks. That's why I asked the question earlier, DG. I said, some Nigerians, yes, they may not have had access to your public enlightenment materials and informationals, but when they now then hear that, you are bestowing honors and awards on certain agencies, they're going to ask themselves, why is this so? In what kind of environment? Chika is, you are struggling to assess the quality of our environment. None of us here lives on Mars. We all live in our environment. And so I'm not making a comparison, but take a look at this. It's also an enforcement and compliance agency to an extent. NDLEA. For many years, NDLEA was in a coma. Yeah. And all of a sudden, you are hearing of arrests and seizures and so on and so forth. And people are saying, yes, you are busting the drug cartels, you are busting the drug rings, and so on and so forth. So Nigerians are going to be curious when, therefore, you say, we conducted some 11,000 or so inspections. So many facilities were visited and so many facilities were shut. Tell us, which facilities were shut? In other words, which facilities were sanctioned and why?
Okay. There are a lot of violations. First of all, there's issue of environmental impact assessment, which is a requirement before you mobilize to site for any construction. So there are a lot of facilities that have been erected without recourse to the EIA. And secondly, there's need for each of these facilities to conduct what we call environmental audit. It's a 3-year cycle, and also there's need for them to always submit what we call a request for permit, because they pollute the environment. So we monitor what they emit. There are standards they shouldn't exceed. So they apply for air quality permit and waste and toxic substances. So these are all some of the requirements we use to monitor their activities. So this compliance monitor I've mentioned, we visit these facilities to ensure that they are in tandem with what is required of them. So after due visitations, when everything is exhausted, that's when we go on the enforcement action. So as I've mentioned just some few months ago, we have sealed 87 facilities not compliant, and presently we are trying to prosecute some of them, because even after sealing, some went ahead to break our seal.
Do you think we should know? Do you think the public should know those facilities that you have sealed and what kind of regulation that they have violated, so that people will understand, and be able to, put their fingers to what we are saying?
Yes. Even if I say I will start naming 73
just tell us a few highlights. Yes.
73, they are numerous, so I cannot be able to.
Just give us the ones that the public can identify with. Let's start from telecoms. If you have, sealed any telecom company that has violated the setback, whatever. If you have violated, and you know them.
They are numerous, so I cannot be able to give you off it. But if there is need, I can provide the list. Yes. So presently, we are trying to prosecute them, and will not relent our efforts. It's going to be a continuous process. So likewise, I have mentioned, some of them are not compliant, but some are compliant 100%. So there is need for us to encourage them, recognize them. So that's why we came up with this Environmental Compliance Award, which is a requirement of some of the regulations. It's been provided in our regulations that those are compliant should be recognized. So
okay, DG, thanks. Let's pause in the meantime and then have a broader understanding of the mandate of your agency. What is your chief concern? I mean, you can have a mandate, a log of mandates, and you may not at all material times be able to focus on each and every one, but there could be some priority areas. So what do we know at this time, or what should we know at this time about the focus of NIGERIA? Is it, for instance, on air quality? Is it, for instance, on noise pollution? Is it, for instance, on soil contamination? Is it, for instance, there are many things. Is it refuse? I mean, that's why we're talking about when you say environment. You say refuse dumps all over the place and in major cities. So what is the focus of NIGERIA, and how is it going about this?
Thank you very much. The DG has laid the foundation for the work the agency has been doing. As regards the focus of the agency has 5 policy trust areas within which it focuses operation. The first is compliance monitoring and enforcement, followed by developing a database on information management, and then raising the level of awareness and environmental education in all parts of the country, and then followed by increasing the level of compliance monitoring and enforcement of national environmental regulations, and finally developing national environmental regulations and ensuring that all these regulations are enforced. As part of these strategies in reaching out to every part of the country, the agency has made concerted effort to establish states as zonal offices in almost all the 36, but we are yet to cover all. We've covered 34 states, remaining 2 states that we are yet to cover. So when DG was saying that we create awareness, while he is saying so is that whatever activities we are carrying here at the headquarters, where Nigeria has offices in the states and zones, those activities are carried out simultaneously. He mentioned earlier that we do carry out weekly or 2 weekly environmental awareness exercises. As we are doing it in the headquarters, all our states and zones are doing the same exercise at the same time. So actually, the agency has been reaching out to various stakeholders. We have been reaching out to various segments of the society. When you mention which priority areas, the law has given us the mandate to control and enforce all environmental laws and regulation, all sectors of the environmental activities, except in the oil and gas. Soil analysis, we do that. However, it's not the agency that does the analysis direct. We accredit consultants who work in the field. They visit these facilities, carry out analysis, test their water qualities, test effluent analysis before discharging into the environment. And in terms of air quality too, the agency even initiated a program known as the National Vehicular Emission Control Program. However, that scheme or program is yet to take off. But by the time the program takes off, the agency is going to ensure that air quality. Just recently, the DG received a complaint from one of our states about discharge of untreated effluent, toxic pollutants into a river body. He quickly dispatched a team who visited that state, collected samples, carried out analysis, and the result of the analysis is being studied. Very soon, subject to, depending on the outcome of the analysis, an appropriate action will be taken. So in terms of forest management and control of deforestation, the agency has developed regulations on that ensures that where forest is to be cut, there are guidelines that will require you or that will direct you on how to. However, the agency, as part of our policy drive, believing that we can issue of environment cut across every sector of our economy, we engage the state government, we engage the local government. You mentioned the issue of waste. There is no doubt in every city, every community you go in Nigeria, you see a lot of waste being dotted all over the place. Statutorily, by the Nigerian Constitution, waste collection and waste management is the responsibility of the local council. However, the agency, what we do is to ensure, create awareness. In the first place, when you generate waste, make sure that you manage that waste very well. That is why you see in state government providing landfills or collection points. The agency is not mandated to do that. We are not a management agency, but we ensure that whatever rules are put in place, they are being complied with.
Okay, let me again bring in Mr. Emeribe. The agency says it has been able to come up with more than 30 regulations, which companies operating within our environment space are expected to comply with.
Yes.
And I also want to believe that those that will be recognized, the companies that Nestra wants to recognize, are expected to meet with, certain indices. What are those indices that these companies are expected to meet?
Well,
that they have met, apart from complying with your regulations?
Yeah, basically, most of the companies, I do not have the list, but they must have complied with air quality, they have mitigating measures Not if you are polluting the environment, especially to provide a mitigating measure towards containing the amount of emission and, you generate in the air. If you are polluting the environment via waste, you are expected to have most of them must have organized, they must have laid down policies on how to manage those wastes, and Nigeria gauges them, and it's based on that they are awarding them. Environmental audit is like Professor said, yes, in the law is a law in Nigeria for 3 years. They have been complied. They are expected to have complied with environmental management, environmental auditing, planning, and environmental management plans. So these are the indices, these are the basis. Because effluent discharge, like the director said, Nigeria monitors. We as consultants, we monitor. We come to you in our reports. We lay down the basis for you. That's what we call environmental management plan. We generate environmental policies, management policies for you. So you are expected to have complied with all those plans. These are the basis for the award. You see, 100%, not just because some people are not. Some people might come in today, they comply. Maybe they conduct an audit today. After 3 years, when you come to them for another auditing, they will tell you, please. They will be looking at it on the monetary side, which is not supposed to be.
Okay, that is
Chika,
yes. Mary, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, we are flying at an altitude that nobody can virtually see us now. We are talking policy, we're talking mandate, we're talking about compliance, X, Y, Z. Let's bring it down. Okay. So that the man or woman, boy or girl who is watching Good Morning Nigeria today, as they do in their millions, not just in Nigeria but elsewhere around the world, we have a clearer understanding of what we're talking about. Company A, operating facility 1, engages in such and such a business. The requirements for compliance are as follows. We can think of, if there are 5 of them, name 2 or 3. And they have complied with these requirements in their activities. If you say, for instance, it's a textile factory, you discharge all kinds of effluent into water bodies and so on and so forth. No, when we approach them, because they use dye, they use all kinds of things. So I'm not in that field. So it's your field. So that the Nigerians will have a better understanding. Oh, okay, this is what happened. Okay, now, if another person is not doing it right, and you say citizen responsibility and cooperation, a citizen will be in a position. So, but on the other hand, the other person was rewarded the other day. These ones are not doing it right. I should report. So what do we know? Can we bring it down so that we all can see? We are still flying at 35,000 feet above mid-sea level. Prof.
Thank you very much. So to bring it down to the layman's level, as you have said, so let's use as an example the textile company you have talked about. Certainly, you know the process of treating these animal skins generate a lot of toxic waste. There are chemicals, some of them use chromium, which is a heavy metal that pollutes the environment, and likewise the water smells a lot. So there is need for them to have an abatement technology. When we say abatement, is anything that can be able to rectify some of these issues to reduce the pollutants. So they are not supposed to discharge this wastewater directly into either rivers or to any land. They're supposed to have a technology, effluent treatment plant, where they would channel that water, treat it, so that they reduce these pollutants to a certain limit. There are acceptable limits. It's not possible to remove them 100%, but they should be reduced to the barest minimum before you discharge into the environment. So that's what informs some of the permits we request. Annually, you see how you discharge. So there's need to test the discharge water to ensure that it complies. Likewise, apart from that permit, we expect them quarterly to also report their discharge into the environment. So secondly, when you talk about the air quality permit, we know that wherever you go, those engaged in this production, they either use fossil fuel in their generators, or in the course of their production, they discharge pollutants into the environment. So let me use an example for the sake of the layman. Let's use an example of a quarry. You know, they blast these rocks, they grind them, so they release a lot of dust into the atmosphere. So for them to rectify this issue, there's need for them to have also an abatement technology. For instance, well, they use it in an open space. They're expected to use sprinklers, sprinkle the place so that they reduce the amount of dust going into the atmosphere in order to have a very good air quality, because we have a regulation specifically on air quality. And we monitor those emissions to ensure that they are within the required limit. Because when we talk about environment, we are talking about the air, the water, and the soil. And we are also responsible for ensuring the conservation of the ecosystem, the plants, the animals that live within that environment. So that's what informs all these processes. And in awarding these facilities, in picking those that qualified, apart from ensuring that they have all these requisite permits and certification, the environmental audit certificate, the air quality and waste toxic permit, we also look at other factors. For instance, we talk about corporate social responsibility. You have your facility within a community. You're supposed to reach out to them and see what you can give back to them. So we consider that. We also ensure that you have a health and safety environmental department, which takes care of the entire environment, the safety of the workers. And apart from that, we also look at the rate of your compliance. Are you the type that always apply for some of these permits in good time before it expires? And I mentioned also issue of the environmental impact assessment right from the inception. Have you done that? So for some of these requirements for now, if it's an environmental audit, what we did for now is to ensure that you must have carried this 3 times, 3 cycles.
Let me just interject now. Apart from citing these permits that they have, these companies have these permits, and NESRA cites that, okay, indeed, you have complied with these permits. Does NESRA also get involved in the process of verification, ensuring that, yes, these companies have these facilities, to a certain air quality? Do you also get into the process of verification?
Yes, we do. We have, as mentioned by Director of Partnership Education, we have offices all over the Federation. We have so far 34 state offices. So that's why we talk about environmental compliance monitoring. So what they do, they visit these facilities to ensure that they are compliant. And likewise, we go to verify. We have what we call the handheld environmental monitoring equipment. So when you go on site, you test the emission coming out from the stack of that facility and you compare with the standard. Likewise, we check the water that is being discharged to ensure that it's within that limit. So that informs why we say we also do enforcement if there is no compliance. So it's a continuous process. It doesn't start just in a day.
Okay, just I know Kisley wants to come in. Kisley, just a moment, please. I would like you to tell us those that you are recognizing, or those that you'll be recognizing this evening. What is the percentage of those who have complied, over those that have not complied? Because I asked this because in one of your interviews, you cried out about the fact that many multinational companies are operating, lower standard, using or weaker standard operators than what they ordinarily would, use in their parent companies. So, what is the percentage of those that have complied and over those that have not complied?
Well, I cannot be able to specifically say this, the percentage, but as far as we are concerned, they are complying now. We have some that are not. So if you compare and consider the total number of facilities we have in Nigeria, I just mentioned that.
How many are you recognizing today?
We are recognizing 17.
17?
Yes, out of them. So I've mentioned the number we have sold. We have just sold 73. So if you compare with the total number of facilities we have visited, I mentioned that in the last 4 years only we have visited 11,477. So in 2021 we have still 87. So all in all, if you combine the two together, it's just 250 something. So using that index, you can tell that the rate of compliance for these industries is really very, very high. We have not computed the exact percentage.
Which industries are your cardinal target for ensuring compliance with environmental standards and regulations? I'm asking Dutse Saka.
Okay, let us put it this way. We adopt what we call the man sector. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria has categorized these industries and facilities in different categories, depending on the nature of materials they use, the type of products they get, the type of, basically the materials they use and the nature of their operations. So we were guided by the man sector in the consideration of this award. So the award is not a general, but in each sector, we examine how far has facilities A, B, C, D is doing in line with trying to comply with these provisions. These regulations that we developed is based on the nature of your operations. As DG mentioned earlier, you mentioned the telecom sector. You cannot give the same assessment what you did to a telecom sector to a tannery that you mentioned or a textile you mentioned earlier. Now, in coming to rating these facilities, you earlier mentioned which parameters we use. And the DG and the consultant mentioned that we do ask these facilities as required by law to conduct environmental audit every 3 years. The environmental audit is a document that tries to carry out a comprehensive assessment to determine how well a facility is operating in line with statutory requirement. So in that document, if the audit concerns a textile, you see laboratory analysis of effluents, you see analysis of air quality, you see analysis of the raw materials that they are using, and you see analysis of even the water, including the volume, the quantity of water they are using. In the final analysis, the consultant will come out with what we call a materials balance. What do you mean by material? We're trying to determine what you put in and what comes out of the operations. And then you discover that in some facilities who are using maybe obsolete equipment, you discover that in the course of their operation, they run at a loss. And then the environment will be negatively impacted. In that respect, the consultant, who is a specialist in that area, will advise that for you to get the best out of your operation and to reduce losses as a result of operating obsolete equipment, you'll be advised to replace your equipment with modern equipment. Now, there are some facilities that don't generate effluent. So we don't rate them the same with those ones that operate that generates effluence. So in determining the awards, we discover that let's assume the food and beverage industries. You have, for example, Coca-Cola, 7-Up, Nigerian breweries, and the rest of them. We look at that category. Who among these facilities is performing, is meeting up with the laid down requirement? And this data is obtained from the audit report that we got from the consultant. And in addition, you ask, do we normally verify? I think maybe for the benefit of the audience, the agency has 2 reference laboratories. One is located in Kano, the other one is located in Port Harcourt. So those parameters that we can measure based on the equipment we have, we carry out verification in those laboratories to determine what the consultant has submitted to the agency. And as the DG mentioned earlier too, in addition to what he mentioned, there is what we call a spot check. Spot check is an exercise that we carry to facilities unnoticed, without prior notice that will be coming. Our officers will come to your facilities and then assess how far are you trying to comply with our national environmental regulations.
I just wondering, what is your chief concern? Is it with the big polluters or with the generality of operations?
Yes, thank you very much. You see, there was this complaint or this comparison we tried to establish. I found it is not the nature of how big, but what are you emitting? For example, the local tannery, those who are familiar with our, our local traditional method of tanning hides and skin, you discover that their level of pollution may be as terrible as even a textile. However, if you look at the size, the number of people they employed, this local traditional tanner may be having maybe 3 or 4 people, but the level of pollution, the toxic substances that they emit into the environment may be more dangerous than an established tannery.
How do you enforce compliance? So those
yes,
with the micro business, micro businesses, but big polluters.
Big polluters. That's why we have we categorize this first into large, small, and medium. Now, the consultant mentioned carrying out audit report every 3 years. Since these smaller facilities are not as big as those international or local that are big, we require them to carry what we call environmental monitoring plan, environmental management plan, EMP. So in carrying on an EMP is a study of how these kind of smaller facilities are operating, and then the plan will outline, identify the raw materials they are using, the processes they are using, and how they are expected to discharge those toxic substances into the environment. In fact, the challenge is they are so dotted, and you'll find them within some families, some urban settlements, unlike the bigger industries that are located in the industrial estates. These smaller ones, they are dotted all over.
Don't say, Saka, thanks.
Yes.
Clear. The reason why I asked this question about what the concern is, whether it's with the big polluters or the small polluters, but it's giving an explanation. But there are many other examples that we can take a look at. Chika, Saka was talking a moment ago about the location of some of these micro businesses, but big polluters, such as those in the tannery business.
Yes.
Have we given consideration, for instance, to the menace of mechanics, automobile mechanics in our environment? Auto mechanics. If there's an empty plot of land, you say, okay, I want to let me lease it for a couple of years, let them stay there. The sludge from your engines, petrol, diesel, grease, no grass can grow where a mechanic workshop is. Have we given consideration to this in terms of, again, the health of our soils?
I think we have not really, because personally I feel bad when I see them, but we try to educate them. Because I'm not independent, it's part of personally, it's part of my corporate social responsibility as an environmentalist. I feel bad when I see them, but we educate them. We tell them, but most of them, based on what we tell them, they have been able to marshal out provide some form of waste oil collection. Most of the mechanics you see now, they collect the oils, spent oil, the sludge, spent oil, and they sell them to recycle. They send them. But the problem is, like you said, is the pollution there. The ones that are not collected. So I think that's another point we have to look into, because even you cannot even convince them. I think we have to organize them, because you cannot even convince them to come together and maybe you offer them environmental service, consultancy services. Maybe you advise them, they find it. So what we do, like, we use it as a form of corporate social responsibility, and that's an environmental, because it's a passionate work. You don't just become an environmentalist for the sake of the money.
What's the financial obligation on such, polluters?
That's why I say this corporate social responsibility, because they will not even you will not even be able to convince them to bring money so that you can advise them, organize them well. So, but most of they pollute, they go. But there are some organized mechanical sectors, and we've conducted environmental management plans for them. We've given them, and they are using it.
Well, Chika, thanks. Yes. Prof, DG, I raised the issue of mechanics so that we know where these things are coming from. You can see that directly health of our soils. We all go to mechanics. It is not. This is not the age where people used to go to very well recognized service stations and so on. But those ones are pretty expensive, by the way. In Abuja here, you know where the locations are. Akpo is notorious for that. You go to Lagos, it's Ladipo, where they sell spare parts, and just virtually any empty plot of land. So, what is it that can be done? Because these are the kind of things that people will see visibly. You talked about Chika, about they collecting the effluents, let's say the sludge from vehicles. But you know, if there is a gutter nearby, the typical thing for them to do is just splash it down. They say we put it there, no mosquito will breed.
That's what they do.
Precisely, no mosquito will breed there. So, Prof, for this kind of sector, I know that we've been talking about the big companies and so on and so forth, easy to approach, but we know that small-time businesses, micro businesses, can be also heavy polluters.
Really, it's a serious problem. The major issue has to do with the oil spillage, especially the engine oil. Most of them will just drain it, and anyhow, it will just, as you have said, no grass will thrive in that area. So it's very, very important. I think we have not gone into that because, as you have said, they are dotted all over. They are very difficult to work with, and when you go to such people, they will talk about their business is not strong enough. But there's a way you can do it.
He said you could also see it as a social corporate responsibility. Is NESRA willing to do that? Are you
to sensitize them, because we don't have, as mentioned by Mr. Salka, we don't implement projects. So, for instance, as a mechanic, if you go to the organized mechanic workshops, you will see that the place where they work is highly concretized, and when they want to drain the engine oil, there is a pit which is cemented, concretized, and they don't just let the oil to just go into the pit. They will still collect it, but even if there's a little spillage, it will be contained within that pit. And they also use sawdust to mop it, clean it. So that is the ideal way to go about it. So to go in and see how we can continue to engage with them, sensitize them, because it's not even healthy for them. Some of these oils have a lot of other chemicals. Some of them are carcinogens, especially this one.
I think it's an area that Nextra may also want to step up, your enlightenment, duties, responsibilities.
Yes.
Because apart from the mechanic village in Apo, you also go to Kubo. That the whole place is something else. And these are just two out of the myriads of other places, in different parts of the country. So I think it. But another area I don't know. It's You go to different places, communities,
yes.
Even in the satellite towns, you now see telecom masts springing up, within residential areas. I mean, is it safe?
We have there's a guideline for the erection of the telecom masts. We have a regulation specifically on telecom and broadcast sector, National Environmental Telecommunication and Broadcast Sector Regulation. So in that regulation, there are requirements for erection of these BTS masts. For instance, there's a setback distance. At least you maintain a minimum of 10 meters between the mast erected to the base of the fence of a building, residential building. So
you need to go out and see what is happening. There's nothing like that.
Yes.
Even within the confines where the mast is erected, you see people holding events
there.
Yes.
So most people are not aware. I know some of them. You discover somebody will go to the telecom companies. He will beg them, and he may even bribe them to go and erect this BTS masts within his residence
to collect rent.
To collect rent. So that is what is happening. But we are working very, very hard with the Nigerian communication.
You really need to work
day in, day out. Hard. In fact, we have ordered the decommissioning of some of these BTS masts. We receive complaints about some of these BTS, and we always send our officers to go and investigate. Take this setback distance, and apart from the setback, even after establishing the mast, there is need for you to ensure that if you have a generator, just like as you have mentioned, issue of oil spillage, you must ensure that you construct a burn wall to contain the oil that is coming from that. We talk about the pollutants coming from the exhaust of that generator. You must ensure that you use a generator that emits less into the environment, and we encourage them also to go into renewable forms of energy, especially.
It's like Nesra is
solar.
It's soft on those.
No, we are not.
Like
we are not soft.
Where is your cane?
Yeah.
Where is your good?
No, we are caning them.
Fine. When we take this break from this conversation, maybe one of your aides will go and bring the cane and whip so that people will see it. Because we know that the carrot is important, which is education, which is enlightenment. Sanctions. I know that it is not a problem of Nesra. You're doing now, of course, it's important, creating awareness, X, Y, Z. But this is an environment, Chika. I'm sure this must scandalize you at all times. Somebody just takes plastic pollution, for instance. Pure is what they call pure water.
Pure water.
Just fling it. Recklessly careless as to where the thing is going. And if you make, as a gentleman, you make the mistake of telling sir, okay, what do you do? Not do right to. I believe me.
but this is again a responsibility that those who manufacture, those issues should bear. They should bear, because these are biodegradable, issues, and then you must find a way of also recollecting those, recycling those.
And there's need for attitudinal change. We must do the right thing. If we don't do it, there's no way things will work. For instance,
we're talking about Nesra implementing your mandate now.
Yes.
Attitudinal change is part of it. But how much has Nesra been able to do? Sorry, we'll have to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll continue with our conversations, please. All right.
A new edition of TV Guide is out. featuring an impeccable personality with purposeful leadership, Alhaji Mohammed Meitakobi, the Executive National President of Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria.
In 774 local governments, will be able to put all our structures in everywhere. I'll be able to bring the Retians members together, to reconcile them, to come and work for the progress of the association.
Welcome to a world of fun and excitement as we also present an assemblage of professionals in the media space. Some compelling NTA programs, current trends in the fashion world, ICT, sports, entertainment, and lots more. Get a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
The security situation in Nigeria has been reasonably stable in spite of activities of unpatriotic elements engaged in various criminal activities around the country. Daily situation reports coming in from states. 2 months ago, it has shown relative peace on many of our highways, such as Abuja, Kaduna Birnin Gwari, Sokoto, Zamfara, Kaduna.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We still have our three guests here with us in the studios, and we're discussing the more effective policing of the environment through NESRIA. Of course, we recognize that NESRIA is a relatively young agency, created in 2007. So the DG of NESRIA, tell us, because some of the issues that we are raising obviously will impact on state governments. What is the relationship between NESRIA and state ministries of environment in helping to advance one, public enlightenment, two, even enforcement of standards. Because we talk refuse disposal, mechanics, these are all issues that state government should not really be concerned about. What is your relationship, and therefore what cooperation or lack of it do you have from them?
Thank you very much. One of the core mandates of the agency is to liaise with stakeholders, both locally and internationally, on matters of to do with environment. So state governments are one of our key stakeholders. Annually, we engage with them. We usually hold annual stakeholders meeting for where we look at the regulations and brainstorm on how to go on enforcement of such regulations and all other environmental issues. So, and the state governments are our hosts. Yes, these states, the host of most of the time they provide the accommodation and other logistics for us to work, because the funding is not good enough for us to set up most of these offices on our own. So we go out, we usually have environmental education awareness campaign, as I've said. So we usually invite them, we go together, and whenever there's any infringement, we look at our regulations to ensure that there's compliance. Even though in some instances, we usually have some frictions, they insist that they also have the power to legislate. They say that the environment is on the concurrent list. So some of what we require some facilities to do, they also go there to say yes. They also want them to comply. But we work together, and we hope to continue working with most of the state governments in order to ensure that we protect the environment. Our target is to ensure we have a clean and healthy environment all over.
Okay, I'd like to return to the issue of individual responsibility with regards to waste, how we dispose our waste. Apart from the fact that as an individual, you should be able to have a sense of responsibility to know how to dispose. When you finish your sachet, water or pure water, you should know how to dispose of it. But what about those who produce, those who package in those biodegradable, containers? What extra responsibility do you expect of them? For instance, the big names, who produce bottled drinks, drinks in smaller pit containers.
One of their responsibilities in the regulations for the brown environment, that is the manufacturing sector, there is a provision for a polluter pay principles. If you pollute, you must take the responsibility of rectifying this issue of pollution. And we have a provision where we call the extended producer responsibility for the polluter pays principle, that right from the beginning, whatever you produce, you have the responsibility to take care of that item at the end of its life. For instance, you talk about plastic bottles. The essence of the plastic bottle is just to contain the beverage. So when it is consumed, you have the responsibility to ensure that that plastic bottle is taken out of the environment. And when it is taken out, the best way is to recycle it, to get the value out of it, instead of it becoming a problem. It becomes a resource. When you do that, you create jobs, you generate a lot of revenue, and you also conserve our raw materials. You don't need to start mining for new raw materials to use in this manufacture process. So for these plastic bottles now, I think we have gone far in the implementation of the EPR. The big names you have mentioned, those big companies that produce these beverages like the Coca-Cola, the 7-Up. Some years back, they came and they formed their own producer responsibility organization, what we call the PRO. It's a model for the implementation of the EPR, and they call them the Food and Beverages Recycling Alliance. So the model entails the funding of the PRO by the manufacturers, those those that have that responsibility, you know, it's not possible, for instance, to say, okay, Coca-Cola, they'll go all over and pick Coca-Cola bottles. Yeah, 7-Up will pick 7-Up bottles. So the models and just coming together of these companies, they form what we call the PRO. So what is expected of them is to fund the activities of the PRO. And the PRO will support the collection of these materials, this waste, and also the recycling. You use the money coming from them to support these activities. So for plastic bottles, I assure you now, as early as 5 o'clock, if you go out from your house, you see some of these scavengers looking for them because they have a lot of value. So we'll take them to a collection center. We call them the informal collectors. So what we are trying to do is to formalize this collection process, because when they do that, they expose themselves to a lot of hazard. You see them with their bare hands. So there's need for them to be fully kitted with personal protective equipment. Likewise, even from the consumer sides, right from our houses, we are not supposed to combine all our garbage together in one place. There's need for us to do what we call segregation. You have one container for the plastics, which are recycled clothes. You have one for the food waste. That's how you're supposed to have them. And likewise, we need to develop our collection system. So when the collector comes, it's not supposed to combine everything together since they have been segregated. The vehicle evacuating this waste should have some separate containers where it can be collected and taken to the collection center. When it is collected, it's going to be taken to the recycling facilities. Those organic components, the food remnants, some of these leaves falling from the trees and the flowers can be used, can be composted and converted to a fertilizer. That is the plan. But presently, due to a lot of factors, only few people can afford even to provide these receptacles. You discover most houses we have only one receptacle, we combine them. So there's a lot to do.
Some of those receptacles are even cracked or broken.
They are cracked.
With leakage all over the place.
Yes.
But let me ask Duse again, Duse Saka. What additional level of cooperation, rather than competition, would Nigeria like to see from the state ministries of environment in furtherance of the overall mandate of having a healthier environment?
See, thank you for that question. In fact, in addition to what the DG mentioned, the level of partnership and cooperation with the state government, he has mentioned earlier that the agency has developed 34 or 35 national environmental regulations. One of the process that leads to the development of this regulation is bringing the state government together. In all these regulations that we developed, we have a forum that we call National Regulatory Dialogue. At that forum, all state governments, represented by their state commissioners of environment or the general manager or managing director of the state environmental protection agencies, come together at that forum, present a particular regulations where responsibilities and delineations in the enforcement of that regulations are shared between the federal, the state, where possible, with the local governments.
I like that, where possible. Because you know that local governments have been emasculated virtually all the states of the federation.
Because why I say so is globally, there are some areas that they recognize the national government as responsible for the management, or when it comes to issue of that particular area, is the national government that the international community recognize. So on that situation, you will not bring in the local government or the states. So responsibilities are delineated, and then after operating these regulations for some time, we come together again where we share experiences. in the course of implementing these regulations, what are the challenges? What are the success story in the implementation of these regulations? Identify these regulations, will come again. If it calls for amendment or review, we review those areas in order to strengthen the enforcement capacity of both the state and the federal government.
Okay, we need to fasten up,
Okay.
yes, our conversation. But let me ask Chika and Eribe before the DG, rounds off our conversation. I know at COP27, the issue, of course, the emerging issue now that countries, are trying to drive is adaptation and mitigation of emissions to make our environment healthy. And the bigger pollutants are being persuaded to make some contribution, financial contribution. Are we likely to see something like that mainstreamed in our own laws here for those bigger pollutants that are also causing us some issues of environment issues?
Oh, well, I think the regulatory authorities should drive it, because if you look at the consultants, we will not be able to drive that.
As a environmental consultant.
Yes.
Is that likely? Is it a possibility? Because if that is being done at the global level,
of course,
then is it something that we can mainstream here also?
Yes, it's already being done by some big companies like some oil companies, even some the telecoms. They provide some logistics, some monetary enhancements to us. Some of them, but not all. But it's still stay novel. But I believe we have to be very optimistic about that. Very soon, maybe the foreign countries, foreign organizations will help us.
Okay, I think,
to add to what you said, you mentioned how can we, I think the first step the government did was to establish a National Council on Climate Change. And one of the principal mandate functional provided in that act is to mainstream this climate change mitigation, adaptation in all sectors of our national life. Either you are in the construction sector, you are in the transportation sector, you make sure that you put into consideration measures that will bring in mitigation of this impact of climate change.
Okay, thank you. DG Nesria, for a number of years running, the ICT sector has become a significant contributor to Nigeria's gross domestic product. But we know that as there is growth in the ICT sector, we also have to contend with e-waste. How well are we focusing on the management of e-waste? I'm not talking about e-waste that some persons still carry about. There are some phones that look like e-waste and so on and so forth.
Why are you looking at my phone?
I wasn't looking at your phone.
But I should see you.
No. I wasn't looking at your phone. Your phone is not on. You used to have an e-waste. You used to have one. My colleague Claire used to have an e-waste. And of course, she then upgraded.
Did you hear that?
Whether it's iPhone or whatever it is, certainly it will become an e-waste.
At some point in time.
At some point of time. It will come to its end of life. Yeah. So,
but this is still very active. This one.
Yes,
is still very
certainly it will become an e-waste one day. So this is a very, very serious problem, as I've mentioned. With the advancement in ICT day in, day out, we are churning out new products, and we are in the habit of changing. There's a new one, new TV, I will go and buy. So it's a serious challenge, and it's one of the most hazardous substances, the e-waste, because they are made of a lot of chemicals, heavy metals. So presently, Nigeria is a hub for the even dumping of this second-hand electronics. They are e-waste. Most of the electronics coming into Nigeria, they arrive dead on arrival. They come. So it's a serious issue, and that's why one of our mandates also to ensure that whatever is coming in, we have the mandate to protect Nigeria from these hazardous substances, because Nigeria is a signatory to the Basel Convention for the transboundary movement of
I'm sorry, I'm told to round off, but I will not do that until I've just asked, what is your greatest challenge? What is the greatest challenge that the agency is having?
The greatest challenge now has to do with funding, an inadequate number of staff. For us to work very well, we need to be all over the federation at local government levels, and we need to have a lot of funds to acquire what we need to work. Even the complementary vehicles is
all right.
just
The Director General of NEXTRA, Professor Leo Jauro, I must appreciate you and the work that you have done, and wish you well. Thank you very much for sharing your perspective.
Thank you very much.
On Good Morning Nigeria. Dutse Salka, Director, Partnership and Education, NEXTRA. Thank you very much also for your perspectives. And Chika Emeribe, thank you very much also. He's an environmental consultant.
Thank you.
And that's our conversation on Good Morning Nigeria for this morning. Let's quickly take a look at sports. And of course, Brazil defeated, as expected, Korea yesterday, 4-1. Kingsley, did you watch it?
You know,
Right.
there are players for whom you have to have a lot of respect. Look at the first goal by Brazil, scored by Vinicius Junior. Of course, Vinicius Junior plays for Real Madrid, the best and the greatest club in the world. The calmness, the coolness, under pressure and under tension. Look at that, right there in the 18-yard box. You needed that kind of skill. It's a young player, but you needed that kind of skill. After the loss to Cameroon, Brazil came out smoking. And within 36 minutes, they had 4 goals. And again, I repeat, that first goal by Vinicius Junior.
All right.
Big time goal.
Can you introduce our sports?
Let's take it.